what's going to be happening in this show is I have been a long-time musician. I've been a musician for 16 years. I still currently dabble in music, especially when it comes to creating music for my podcast. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at two specific albums each episode. So every episode is going to be devoted to two different albums, and it's different genres too. It doesn't have to be even in the same genre, the same field. It's not a comparison between the two albums. It is merely a comparison to me and how I feel about each album specifically. Really, the concept is just trying to get into something new. Maybe one of these, albums that I happen to listen to, I might enjoy thoroughly, overwhelmingly, and become a huge fan, a huge new fan to what am I saying? Become a new fan of something I've never listened to before, right? I mean, that's really what I'm looking forward to the most, is finding an album, listening to it, and becoming a fan of something I've never ever heard of, or I've heard of, but I didn't know that I would enjoy. Now, one of the first things I'm actually going to do here on this show, specifically this episode, is I'm going to tell you guys a bit about my musical career and what has been my music career over the last 16 years, and how it's developed, and where I've came from, where I've been, all those different things that has made me, I guess, who I am today, right? And in more ways than one. But yeah, we're going to do that, and we're going to be looking at a lot more things today. We're going to look at two amazing albums, two albums that I fully enjoy. So if you tuned into this show expecting me to maybe rag on one of these artists, you're in the wrong place, man. You're in the wrong place, because both of these guys, fantastic. Literally fantastic. So let's do that, man. Let's get into this right now. Alright, guys, so music for me has always been a huge, huge part of my life. I grew up falling asleep in the back seat of the car as my mom listened to, had it blaring, Def Leppard, Cheap Trick, Kiss, all of those things. So, honestly, not just music has been a part of my life, but rock music, the concept of a band has been a huge part of my life. More often than not, it's a band that is more enticing to me than just a single singer. Like, oh, that man or woman has, a great voice. Sure, that's all well and good, but what about the music? Is the music there? Is the musicianship there? If it's not, then it just takes away from the artist and their ability to create good vocals, that matches the music. That's the whole idea. But I already have this weird feeling doing this podcast that I'm heading towards great success. And I don't want to be too, jump to the gun too quickly, just for the simple fact that I can't guarantee anything. But I will say I do have a plethora of experience in music, as well as bands and all of these things, and production and shit like that. So it makes me have a very interesting take on a lot of music, and I'm very favorable towards most music. There's not really any one specific genre that I haven't listened to or dabbled in, and can't see the favoritism, I guess, why people like that genre. I can fully understand it, and I get it, and I understand why certain music exists, while other music can come and go so quickly. But my beginnings in music honestly starts with my career as a screamer, if that makes sense. Not a sexual thing, but a screamer is also known these days as an unclean vocalist, which is virtually just somebody who does metal music. I have done metal. That's my favorite genre. That's my favorite genre of music to do pretty much always. There's an aggression about it, but I'll be honest, when I first started really enjoying music, and it became a huge part of my life, it was hip hop. It was Nelly, Hot in Here, stuff like that. Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP. It was the first album I actually ever purchased, And I remember it distinctly because it was the most expensive fucking CD I have ever bought. I can't say that it's because, timing, like I got the CD right when it came out. I'm pretty sure that's not the case. I believe it just happened to be the music store. I can't remember what it's called, but I know it was a huge place. A lot of people went there. You could get all of the CDs, any CD you wanted, from this one location. So I went there and spent the $25 and bought the Marshall Mathers LP, specifically because a friend of mine was playing it, and I loved it. There was just something so comical about the music as well as the lyrics. There was something really fun that kind of made it enticing for younger kids, which is really weird. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Right now I'm just introducing you guys to me and my history as a musician. Just it'll kind of give you guys an idea as to why this podcast is so special for me, because I love music. I seriously do, and you guys are going to learn about this over time. The more often that you listen to the show, you're going to see my diversity as a music fan. There's not really much that I dislike. Everything has a specific spot and meaning for me, and we're going to continue to do that. But I started playing music in like 7th grade, started doing vocals and all those things. I was like 13 years old. Production was shit. I don't really have any evidence of these things. This is before Facebook. MySpace was really the only thing. And even back then, if you didn't know how to upload music to, online and shit like that, it wasn't going to benefit you anyways. But I started out in 7th grade, started doing unclean vocals. I really loved it. I always was a leader out of all my friends. So when it came to making music, I just felt it was only right that I tried to sing. I became the singer guy, the man behind the microphone, just like now. But in my head, I feel like I was better. I'm better at the music thing rather than the podcasting. No, I'm just kidding. I love podcasting. It really encompasses everything that I've enjoyed in my life. Talking a lot, trying to be funny a lot, and obviously the amazing subject matter that I love to talk about. But either way, man, I started out in 7th grade singing, and over time, MySpace was the big deal, and to get into a band back then, a lot of them would put, next to their name, in parentheses, they would say, we need a vocalist, or a drummer needed, or bass player needed. And I had a real issue with this because during my time trying to become a vocalist in a band, everybody needed something else. They needed a drummer. They needed a guitar player, a bassist, anything other than vocals. So in my mind, I'm like, well, if this is what they need, then that's what I will become so I can give it to them. If they need a drummer, I'm going to learn how to play drums. They need a guitar player, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. You want a vocalist that can also play keyboards? I'm going to do that. So I went out of my way when I was 18 years old and decided to get my first drum set. It was a $250 Target drum set. That's right. I know you guys have heard of Target, but were you aware that you could buy musical equipment back then? Huh? Did you know? I kind of ran into it myself. I had no idea. But in the long run, I learned it doesn't matter. It's better to be versatile anyways. So you were either going to be a good vocalist and get a job in a band, or you were going to be a good drummer and get the job in a band. So it was really just about practice makes perfect, man, and nobody's perfect. And when it comes to music, there is no end game. You never become the perfect guitar player, the best drummer, the best singer. None of these things exist because there's always room to grow. Always room to grow, especially in music. Music is one of the few genres of entertainment that is always improving and getting better. In a lot of ways, they're taking things away from music these days, but, nonetheless, it is still very entertaining. The characters that are created through music, some of the most influential characters in our world. In the long run, when you think about it as a whole, like 50 Cent's a pretty big deal now, and he was just a simple rapper from New York, and he's a mogul now. He got a lot of money, even though people were talking about him being bankrupt. And then it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to me, at least. Pretty clear to me that, there's it's most definitely, he's got a lot of money, put it that way. He has not failed yet. I mean, with as many songs as he put out that people of all different kinds can reference the hook, the lyrics, whatever. It just shows you how, how good he really was. But either way, this brings me to my whole point as a musician. I've spent 16 years, and I only stopped at 16 years because, we just fell into a slump, and I fell into a slump and just wanted to start creating other things. And where I'm currently located, it seems as if there's not a very high demand for musicians or people that are musicians looking to create a band, right? So you get put in an awkward situation where you're like, well, I still want to create, but I don't have the means to an end. And I found myself long ago, after learning how to play all of these instruments, I figure I'll just create by myself. Why go out of my way and try to involve other people that are just going to take away from my ideas? It's ultimately not going to be my idea in the end. It's going to be everyone's idea when I can go and work with myself and create exactly what I want, how I want it, every time. It's so much better. Speaking of which, you guys have probably heard the intro music for this podcast because it's going to be at the very beginning of every show. And I created that music. I also created I added two different quotes and interview portions of John Lennon and Jim Morrison, very influential musicians to me. And they will always be a part of the beginning and the end of this show. So you'll get to deal with that if it's an issue, I guess. Otherwise, you're going to love it. But let's get into this, man. Let's actually look at, now that we've kind of discussed I'll discuss I said discussed, I think. Either way, I'm going to discuss more and more about my music, career as we go on in the podcast. More episodes that come, the more you're going to hear about my music ability and background and all that stuff. I don't want to give it all away right out of the gate. But either way, guys, I am Seamus McKillian, also known as Patrick Michael, and I'll be your host, man, always and forever for this show. And I'm super pumped about it, dude. I wish I could explain it another way, other than the fact, I'm stoked, man. I couldn't be more happy for the simple fact that I'm finally able to talk about music. And even though I'm talking to myself, once you guys start listening, you'll understand. And we'll see where it goes from there, right? But let's look at this first album right now. Alright, guys, so the first actual album that we're going to be looking at today is from a American rapper, artist, and recently deceased man. His name was Mac Miller, R.I.P. Mac Miller. It's so crazy, too, because long before his death, I was just not a fan. I didn't like the things he was doing, the music he was putting out. I never found myself enjoying almost all of it until this album. Once I heard this album and everything that is involved with the album, I lost it. I was like, this dude gets it. 100% gets it. That's the fucking, I don't know. The album from start to finish is a masterpiece. 100%. I watched his Tiny Desk concert, NPR Tiny Desk, and that is also perfect. Flawless. Seeing him be able to perform these songs live was amazing. I wasn't there, obviously, but watching it on YouTube and seeing him do this was phenomenal. The album actually came out in August of 2018, and it was his last album ever released because, he passed away. Drug overdose is what is believed to be the cause. But the album starts out with this sort of just an introduction track, instrumental type of deal, and it's called Come Back to Earth. The iconic photograph for Mac Miller's YouTube account features the character from this album, and it's awesome. I loved it. It's a pretty interesting beginning to the album, but it definitely sets you up for what to expect. The second song is known as Hurt Feelings, and that's probably one of my favorite songs on this album. All in all, like I said, from start to finish, you're going to listen to every song, and it only gets better. But due to the situation with him and Ariana Grande, it only makes me wonder, because of the lyrics, what was really going through his head. Because some of that stuff really comes off like he's talking about her or a girl at the very least. And at this point, they had either broken up or, been dating. So it makes sense for the lyrics to, reference that to a certain degree. And he definitely mentions it several times throughout this entire swimming album. The third song is known as "What's the Use," which I believe features Calvin Brodus, and I don't know if you guys know who that is, but his stage name is known typically as Snoop Dogg. But yeah, he's in that song. He helped write the song and the lyrics and stuff with Mac Miller, and it's a fucking phenomenal track. The little background tracks the little background vocals and stuff that Snoop Dogg does, it sets it off, man. And I believe other people have reviewed this album because I've heard people mention Mac Miller singing, and this is not something that he commonly did. So him coming out and singing in this album was, obviously a challenge, testing himself, testing what his fans liked, what they appreciated, and turns out they really did enjoy his singing. He could do it, man. He had a really weird rapping voice, let alone singing, but there's something about strange vocals that make for decent music. Look at James Blunt. You're beautiful. Like, that shit is just too much. Too much. Not good singing, but it worked. Nobody can sing that song better than James Blunt. That's just how it is. But continuing on with this album, the fourth song is known as Perfecto. And if you listen to that track, all this is available on YouTube, you guys. But if you listen to that track where it's called Perfecto, you listen to that song and you're going to hear him talk a lot about what I can only assume is a woman, probably Ariani, because I don't think Mac Miller really had a publicized relationship outside of Ariani. So I feel like it could only be her that he's talking about, right? It seems to make the most sense to me. I don't want to say one way or the other. I'm just speculating, but even the music videos very, I don't know, pointed towards the situation. Perfecto is one of my other favorite songs as well. Number 5 is the title track, not the title track, excuse me. It is the single, I would call it. It's the one song that they made a video of before he passed away, and it's called Self-Care. It's a pretty popular video, got quite a few views on YouTube, and if you guys have seen this, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where Mac Miller is pretty much buried alive, and he's trying to get out of being buried alive. I don't know, it's a really trippy video. He carves memento mori into the wood of the casket that he punches through. Weird, man. People are putting out what are they called? Conspiracy theory videos about Mac Miller's death and how it had to do with obviously Ariani to a certain degree, and this music video is supposedly saying more words than the lyrics are actually allowed. Does that make sense? So watching the video really changes your perspective on the song. It's a fucking phenomenal track, really. Like, it breaks down in the end, and yeah, I can't even really explain how good it is. But if you're looking to listen to some new music and hope that new music is gonna, I don't know, what do they say, entice you to listen to the rest of the music, Self-Care is the perfect track to listen to introduce you to the rest of the album, to make you want to listen to the rest of the album, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Because when I listen to this track, that's all I could think. What else is on here? What else what else do I have to look forward to when it comes to this album? I'm very curious. I gotta know. So you gotta end up listening to all of the songs. And what I find really awesome in a lot of ways, it seems as if when it comes to hip-hop albums and rap artists and stuff like that, their albums tend to be really long. You get, instead of 10 or 13 tracks, you get 25, 28, 30, and bonus tracks. It's nuts. But you get a lot